Good evening, folks. Whoa! Starting with a voice crack. That's not a good start to the live stream. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Got Your Back, post-game live stream edition. I feel like I'm going to hear about that one. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Well, listen, that was a grind of a game for the Oilers, but once again, they find out a way to grind out a tight game. That's a big win for the Oil. Jason Strudwick standing by. We are going to break it down. Of course, Got Your Back, brought to you by our good friends over at Mr. Dirk, located just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. They are your one-stop shop for all of your clothing needs. So if you want to upgrade your look around the office, maybe get yourself a nice new suit, well, Sterling and Dan can hook you up, and the great crew down at Mr. Dirk. If you want some casual wear, they've got you covered for that as well. Everything you need to get yourself looking sharp, Mr. Dirk is your one-stop shop. Highly recommend you go down there for all of your clothing needs. Friendly crew, fantastic shop. It is gorgeous in there. It's worth going to just take a look. Definitely give them a look. Proud to have them as title sponsors here on Got Your Back, Strudwick, and Rishaug. Struds. Tough start for me tonight, buddy. Tough finish for me last live stream, and tough start for me tonight, my man.
Puberty can be an awkward time for people to go through, right? It can really be a challenge, and all these changes that happen to your body, and vocal changes can be one of them. But yeah, you know what? I got a sense that you've grinded out now 78 games, 77 games. What are we at? 77, 78?
Yeah, whatever.
And a lot of podcasts, and I think your wheels are coming off, big man. But this is when we need you. Anyone can play the regular season. We're going to need you to get through this and get into the playoffs. So I'll be here. Your other buddy, Pierre, will be here. Old Mikey Johnson. All these guys will be here. But we need you. But now's not the time to let it all come apart.
That's okay. You know what? This is just a late season dip for me. But I'm going to regain form. And, buddy, I'm going to surprise the hell out of you with my playoff form.
Okay. I want to see it. I'll be ready. And as long as you don't see the Forest homemade sweater anymore was that your Aunt Gus?
That was a Tantry. There was nothing wrong with that sweater. Okay, I feel like I have some explaining to do about the last live stream. I had some very concerned messages on YouTube and on Twitter. If you listen to the audio pod, I went back and did a bunch of editing and explained it all. Here's what happened at the end of the last live stream. By the way, we are up live again on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter as well. And thank you for those who are joining and chirping already. I will get to some of these chirps because I deserve them. And then we're going to get to the game because it is deserving. It was a good game. I was standing up, right? I have a sitting desk. And I was standing during the pod. My back got a little sore. I made the executive decision as owner and operator of this podcast that I was going to sit down in the middle of the podcast. All I had to do was hit a little button, and my desk, it was going to be so cool. It was going to be like a steady count. My desk was going to drop down all awesome, and then I was going to sit, and everyone was going to be impressed. I hit the button. It knocked a picture off the wall, fell down on top of both my monitors, smashed them down on top of me. Luckily, it ripped the power cord out of the back of the computer, and that just killed the stream entirely. And then the monitors fell forward and crashed. I hurt my back, like leaning, trying to catch them all, because my back was already kind of sore from all that standing, and it just destroyed the stream. So I got cocky, and I decided to try and show off, and I paid a price, Struddy.
You did. And you know what? I thought it was really important that I called you about 3 hours later to make sure you were okay. I guess we're done.
You did. No. I wish I would have, again, if you listen to the pod, I actually recorded the phone call between us. And you're like, did you turn it off? And I'm like, no, you idiot. I didn't turn it off. I didn't just turn it off. Things happen. Anyway, what do we got here?
Another 2 more months.
Yeah, I know. Accusers are for losers. I don't know what that one means. We're getting some good chirps here. Let's see the desk move again, says JL. Like, do that trick again for us, Ryan. Great start, Rye. Thanks for that. Little voice crack there. Push record, because in previous podcasts, I've been forgetting to press record and having to do a restart mid-live stream. It's been ugly, but like I said, little bit of a blip before playoffs. I'm sliding right into my groove, right? I'm getting these mistakes out now, right? So that when playoffs hit, Struds, I'm going to be so smooth. It's going to be amazing.
100%, buddy. A year and a half in, you're going to be really good. We're ready to go.
Okay, listen, I don't know. I know you're just beaming over this game.
Oh.
So we're going to break this thing down, and that's going to come to you courtesy of DLR Vinyl Products. I hope my brothers Rick and Rob don't listen to this podcast. And I hope they didn't see the end of the last one, because that's exactly the kind of thing that they will be mercilessly chirping me about. This is the point where I'm supposed to be plugging their company, but I'm not. I'm just more concerned about the chirps that are coming my way from them. It is DLR Vinyl Products, though. If you're looking at putting in some fencing or decking this year, highly recommend you give vinyl some thought, because it's maintenance-free, no staining, sanding, nothing like that. It looks beautiful the day it goes in, and it stays that way for decades. So if you've got that wood fence in your backyard and you're thinking of making a change, give Rick a call here in Edmonton, or Rob a call out in Calgary, and they're going to hook you up and probably chirp me a little bit. So you'll have fun and get great product. Okay, Struds, I'm not going to say anything about that game until you do first, because that, my man, was a Jason Strudwick special.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now we've seen it twice, quite frankly, the last two games, both against the Kings, 2-0 and then to 3-1. What I love about that game, people were talking about it being low event. I get that. But as a player, you have to be so sharp, because in a low-scoring, tight game like that, every mistake is heightened. Every play is so important. And that's where you learn to play in those tight games. Matthias Hockholm talked a little bit about it with Mark Spector of Sportsnet in an interview. I want to say it was 2 weeks ago or something. And he said you have to be feeling comfortable going into a third period. I think it was tied or maybe up one or down one, and just knowing that you can play your game. And this is where you learn. You learn that. They learned in the playoffs last year, but we saw it today. Got up, got scored on, didn't get rattled, came back, drew the penalty, boom, power play does it, and then they kind of get the lucky one at the end. But I absolutely love that game. I'm not going to lie. Usually I might fall asleep in the third period and watch the rest the next day. Not tonight. I was on the edge of my seat, even though, especially through that first Shogger, there wasn't a lot of action.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that first period. 5 shots in total, one of the lowest totals ever that they've ever had. Would the Oilers have 2 shots in the first period?
3-2, yeah.
It was like 3-2 shots on net? Like, what the heck? I think I saw a Dusty tweet. I've had more shots in 20 minutes at Cook County. But they've still got a game going. And listen, I don't know. What are you thinking after the first period and you got 2 shots on the board? Are they okay in there going, hey, didn't give up much either, just stay with it, fellas? Or were they unhappy? I mean, I thought the broadcast did a good job pointing out the puck battles that were lost. And I think that's one way that they definitely weren't good enough in the early going in that game. But how do you feel about a 2-shot period?
Well, I think you're happy. Let's look at the positives. Kings only got 3 shots, right? So I think they did a really good job on that. But you also have to find a way to manufacture, generate some offense and get to the other end. I thought in the second and third period, they were way better at getting into the Kings zone than holding the puck down low. And that's been something I've been championing for years for this Edmonton Oilers team. A group of players that, they can score off the rush, which is great. They can score in the power play, but manufacturing offense by hanging on to the puck and kind of, cycling it down from down low to up high and then up high down to low, pucks to the net, getting rebounds back or getting those types of things back. And they did it. And I love that game. I thought it was just a great game by the Oilers. So now the first period, you don't love it, but the good thing is they got out unscathed, but it wasn't like the Kings dominated that period either. The Oilers knew they had a better version of themselves, and they showed the Kings and quite frankly, the whole league in the second and third, what they're all about.
One of the things I think was important for the Oilers to do in this game tonight was to break through on the power play. I don't think they wanted to go into a playoff series 0-for against the Kings, right? And they were 0-for-9 on the power play against Los Angeles in their season series so far. So not only does their power play break through in this game, their power play was the difference in this game. Their power play got them this win, along with a really strong performance from Stuart Skinner. So Struds, the fact that they got on the board with the man advantage, it's Nugent Hopkins, it's Draisaitl with the man advantage, but I can't overstate how critical it was for them to beat this penalty kill.
It's funny, the Kings don't have a great penalty killing percentage. It's not like they're one of the elite teams in the league.
They're bottom third, right?
Yeah, and so they're around the Oilers, let's say, right around kind of the same level of penalty kill, and let's say talk over the year, not the last whatever stretch of games. And so you're watching them, and they look like a much better team than that. They were very aggressive. They look like they were really kind of taking the ice away from the Kings, or from the Oilers, I should say, and putting pressure. Good sticks, good clears. Especially some of those early I want to say the first power play they had, the Oilers, they really didn't really generate much.
No, wasn't good early.
No, and to be fair, I thought Connor was fighting the puck a little bit tonight. Yeah. To be a little bit critical of him, I thought it was bobbling a little bit a couple times, kind of something we're not accustomed to seeing, I guess. When he's a little bit out of whack, I think it affects the whole power play. But you know what? It is something I think the Oilers will be studying. What are the Kings doing well? And I think pressure. And when you're under pressure, when you're feeling pressure all over the ice like the Kings are bringing, you've got to move that puck quickly. So you got to move it away from the pressure. So that's up, that's over, that's back down, maybe over again, and just find some space. And the Oilers, they're going to figure it out. I mean, and they did twice tonight, but those are really hard-working power play goals they got tonight. I wouldn't say that they were, kind of the tic-tac-toe ones that, they become accustomed seeing when you're almost at 33% on the year.
Seemed really stationary, their power play in the early going too. It's almost like, and I think Louis might have mentioned it on the broadcast. I made a note to ask you about this. He said a potential playoff matchup against the LA Kings, they're not necessarily going to bring all their best wrinkles and fresh material and all that to to our late regular season game. So I wonder, are they already working ahead on potential playoff power play wrinkles to introduce? And would they be hiding some of those late in the season because they need a fresh look in the postseason? What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, it's an interesting comment by Louis. And I got to say, I've never really heard of that when I played. I don't remember anyone saying, don't do this because we want to show them what we're doing. This was an important game where they needed to get these 2 points. Now, I recognize what's going on with Vegas, and it looks like it might be a difficult job to catch these guys. But I'm not saying it's never happened before. I've never really heard of it because, if something's open, you're going to make that play, So I think the more telling thing would be, what are they, there's something they're specifically trying to do against what the Kings are doing. Because now that's, Kings did a pretty good job, even though they gave up 2. So I think that you're going to want to study the tape of the last 2 games and see what the Kings have done. But Louis might be right. I mean, I'm not in every dressing room in every league, or in every time, and he might have some information there. But I haven't heard of that before.
I'm wondering about set plays. Like, this power play has multiple set looks.
Yeah.
And maybe they've come up with 1 or 2 that you have in your hip pocket, wrinkles that you're working on. I could see them operating at that level where between McDavid and Draisaitl and those guys, they have some ideas and they want to work on some stuff. And maybe they've always got 1 in their hip pocket, because they have evolved. Like, we've seen them evolve with some set plays on the power play. We've seen them evolve with some different looks. They've recently called up some oldies but goodies, that Draisaitl backhand forehand play. I agree with you. I think it's probably unlikely. You got to pull out all the stops in a game like this. But I too thought it was an interesting comment. And Louis around a lot, so maybe he knows something that we don't. Okay, we've gone far too long without talking about Stuart Skinner. One last point before we get to him. I agree that it was a tough night for McDavid, just in terms of how tight they were checking him. They were all over him with sticks. He was working hard and he was grinding, and I think he was on the right side of it tonight. There just wasn't a lot happening for him through large portions of that game. But I'll tell you what, buddy, when LA tied that game and Connor McDavid hopped over the boards, that next shift, that is what impact players do. He went out there and gave them no choice but to take a penalty on him.
Captain, that's what a captain does, right? Sets the tone. Okay, we got scored on. We're going to go back out there. We're going to put it right down their throat. Boom. Have to take a penalty on him. And listen, he did. It's not that he had a bad game. I just saying I thought the puck he was finding a little bit, but they were all over him. They need to take as much time and space away as they can. But the good news is he still affects the game when maybe he's not, doing what he can with the puck all the time. But Leon's there to pick him up, or Kane. I thought Kane had a really good game. Zach Hyman going to the net, Nugent Hopkins scoring. I thought Bouchard Ekholm had a good, there's a lot of good things in there. So if your best player doesn't offensively have their best game, you can still win games in different ways.
McDavid, from a time on ice standpoint, just so folks know, he was the most minutes he played against an LA forward was Philip Deneau. Played 707 at even strength against him, 56% Corsi, 5-4 were the shots in favor of McDavid, scoring chances roughly 7-4. I don't always pull scoring chances from natural stat trick, but just to give you an idea, even on a tough night, carried play out there against his matchup, and to a degree, that line did. Okay, let's get to Stuart Skinner. Man, he was so good in the two biggest games of his NHL life, quite frankly, head-to-head against these teams. Let's include the Vegas game in there too. They keep serving up big opportunities and big moments for him, and he's allowed one goal in these two games against the Kings.
Yeah, I'll even go back to include the Boston game.
Yeah, great point.
Not maybe a rough start for him there, but he found a way to get back in. And sometimes bad goals are going to go in, and you just find a way to kind of steady yourself and get back into the game. But tonight he was good. What was it? 20? I want to say 20-some odd shots, not many shots.
Yeah, I'll grab it here for you.
Yeah,
21 shots.
Yeah,
so he stopped 20 of 21, and then when you add that to so that's 43 saves last game. So that's 63 out of 64 shots that he saved in the last two games against the Kings.
Pretty good. Now I think
pretty good.
Yeah. So Skinner, there's he played well, and he just seems so calm. He's just calm in there. Even when in opening moments when Costin goes down, he's not even looking at Costin. He's kind of feeling himself, just checking things out, making sure he's good to go. It has nothing to do with him. So why get worked up or concerned about what's going on with the player that might be injured beside you? So I thought he's great. One point though about the Kings, they don't look the same without Fiala in their lineup.
Oh, he's huge for them.
And he's a real wild card. Offensively, he creates, I think Kepney's their best pure offensive player.
Yeah, he looked good tonight too. He had some good looks.
He looked good last game, man. I really like the way this guy plays. He's on his toes, playing hard, driving the net, using his speed. But they need Fiala as well. And so, Oilers fans, I know that's 2 wins in a row, but 2 wins without Fiala and 2 wins essentially without, I don't know what you phrase Mikey Anderson is another, it's Doughty's partner. So that's 2 things you can think, can't get too ahead of yourself. I don't know where things are at with Fiala or Mikey Anderson. That's not my role, but those are significant outs or players out for this group, Kings.
Going to get to some comments here. Struds, you want to grab that tweet I sent earlier, see if there's any comments that you'd like to get to. Once again, we are live streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I think we're up on all 3 platforms. And a reminder that our inbox and mentions are brought to you by Weiss Johnson, where they've got 45 years in the business. They've made it their business to provide furnaces, garage heaters, air conditioners, hot water tanks to the Edmonton area. They're industry leaders in this town. The number 1 choice for heating, air conditioning, and plumbing services. If you need any of those items, or if you need any of them serviced, give Dennis and the crew down at Weiss Johnson a call, 780-463-3096. Do we want an encore performance from you today, Struddy, on the jingle? Are you not feeling it tonight?
No, I'm good. Listen, I bring energy every night. I'm not the one that's, let's do it.
Weiss Johnson, proud sponsor here on Got Your Back, Struddy.
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
Oh, hey. Little flat tonight. Little flat. Just a little. You were a little like Weiss Johnson. Well, you were a little pitchy there.
When you don't warm up the organ, that's what you get. Subpar performance, bud.
Are you going to a Weiss Johnson mention first, or am I? Do you have one loaded up? Okay, you have that. I'm going to scan here as well.
Stephen Bradley B, 2 first names. Bjugstad had an excellent game, and he goes on to talk about the face-off percentages, nearly 80% of the face-off. great job in his own zone and the PK, and actually had a couple offensive chances that he referenced in subsequent tweets that it wasn't maybe his best game the other night against the Kings. And yeah, Bjugstad, I think it was, I commented that I was wrong about Bjugstad. I didn't think he'd have this kind of impact for the Oilers, but he is. He's big. He's, I kind of liked when he threw I follow into the wall. And I know I follow kind of twisted funny, but it's a game. You're trying to win, man. You're trying to push guys around, be a bit of a bully. And I didn't think he had that in him. I don't remember him being that type of player. But yet here he is. So face-offs, he's all over the ice. And, it'd be interesting to see when McLeod comes back. If it is indeed next week, where does McLeod fit in? Where's the guy? Because, Bjugstad was 15 and a half minutes today or something. So I think he's a guy that I'm not sure he's going to be losing that ice time right away.
15-23.
Yeah.
5 shots on net. 6 hits.
Yeah.
Blocked a shot. Went 10-3 in the faceoff circle. That's a hell of a night.
Yeah.
From a guy in an important game.
And making $500,000 for you.
Yeah. With the retained salary. Oilers had a great night in the faceoff circle. Leon Draisaitl was 13-9. Connor McDavid was 9-6. Nugent Hopkins had a tough night, but faceoffs are going to matter. You want puck possession, especially in a grinding style game. Over to Twitter here. This is a hard hat lunch bucket going to work kind of win, says CK Pawn. Oilers able to generate offense with the cycle down low, working for goals. Sometimes you can get the pretty ones, Struds, and sometimes you got to just, the elbow grease going, and you're just going to have to work for them. It was clear the Oilers were going to have to work for their goals tonight, and I think outside the first period where they lost some battles, they were willing to do the tough stuff to get goals tonight.
You want to be able to win games in different ways, right? So, that the Kings game, both Kings game, low scoring, very playoff feel, like the next shot's going to win this game, right? And I love that feeling. And that's what we saw. Go back to, some other games. They've had to wait a little longer. Maybe they have their A game, but they found a way to win in overtime. Or the Vegas game, they win 7-4, kind of bit of a shootout. Even tonight, I thought the Kings tried to be a little physical. The Oilers, no problem. You want to play physical? We love playing physical, right? They're Kane, Bjugstad, Bouchard, Darnell looks like he's going to kill someone in there, Draisaitl running at, taking a run at Doughty, all these different players that are, it's not just one guy. Klim Kostin, I think through the lineup, everyone was playing physical. And so and that is a team, a championship team. They don't just have to beat you in one way. They can match your game in different ways. You want to play a power play game? No problem. We love playing power play games because we can score on that. So this group is feeling confident and growing their way out of just being what people viewed as a one-trick pony.
Totally agree. Connor McDavid throws 5 hits on the night. Evander Kane ends up with 8 hits, setting the tone physically again. Kostin had 5 on the night as well. A lot of confidence running through this lineup, says Swaney9. The way Kane is playing has to make everyone feel a little bit bigger. Such a massive piece when he's going like he is. Something has clicked here with Evander Kane. I'm not sure if it was confidence after the injuries, just feeling it. We saw him take a slap shot tonight. Looked like it had quite a bit of pepper on it. It feels like he is entering each game with the intention of making an impact on it, certainly not waiting for it to come to him. He seems to be one of the guys that's willing to just go out there and get it, and I think they need more guys like that.
Well, I think they found more guys like that, right? I think when it can be contagious in a room, right? So you've got, I think 97-29 are doing. I think Hyman does it. I think Kane's doing it. Nuge is doing it. I think Yamamoto's getting in there. Bjugstad, Klim Kostin's getting in there. On the back end, there's guys are doing it. Even their goaltenders in their own way are doing it. So there's a lot of people that are feeling this style of play where it's all in. And the one point I made a note about it was the way they reload. I think I've touched on this before, but it means when you forecheck hard and the puck goes, D to D behind the net, whoever's in that one corner gets back above the puck really hard. And when you do that, for the other team, it feels like it's a 6-on-5 because you're like, well, he was over here. Now he's back over here. And that makes a big difference. Then it gives your D confidence to stand up more on the rush. So it all fits together. And, but yeah, Kane, I think Kane, I don't know, what do you want to call it? The last 10 days, you're really starting to see the Evander Kane, the more total package that we saw last year.
When it's low scoring like this, the indication might be that it's the Oilers playing into the LA Kings' hands because the Oilers have that high-flying offense. I don't necessarily agree with that, though, Struds. Like, I think the Oilers are comfortable in these low-scoring games now. I mean, McDavid was asked after, which game was it? I think it might have been the last LA game. You know,
Right.
How hard was it to kind of be patient and stick with it? And he said, wasn't hard at all. So these low-scoring games are playoff-style games. I don't think it means that the Oilers are playing to their competition. I think they're comfortable in these games. Doesn't have to be run and gun. And I think more and more towards the end of the season here, they've proven that.
But you want to be able to do that. You know, the way the Kings play, they're trying to stack up that blue line, and they want you to smash up against it, and then they counterattack and go the other way.
Yeah.
Then you get frustrated and you make a mistake. How many times did we see the Oilers get stopped at that blue line tonight? You know, where they made the wrong play. They didn't either just chip it in or were able to skate it in. It was pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
And so they understand, you have to understand what the other team's trying to do to you. And then, find a way to get around it. You can't just be stubborn and say, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. You find the other teams, what they're trying to do. You break that down, and then you get in the other zone. And the Oilers in the second, third period did a great job of holding on that puck and kind of grinding it away. And grinding doesn't mean unskilled. I really feel that puck protection, holding the puck and making plays off that is a very skilled play. Just ask Sidney Crosby, ask Peter Forsberg. Ask these elite. Why don't you ask number 29? Like these are elite players to do it, and it's a very, very good skill to have. And you want to have it because you know what? When you're winning 2-0 and there's 5 minutes to go, and you can put multiple lines out there that understand the value of putting the puck or getting the puck deep in the offensive zone and then hanging on to it. Hanging on doesn't mean you're not trying to score. It means you're wearing teams down. You're grinding down. That clock ticks down so quick. When you're in your own zone with 5 minutes to go and you're winning by 1 or 2 goals, it feels like the clock's moving in hours. So there's a lot of value to it, a lot of value.
Hits were 39-23 for the Oilers, but a nice point here by Rob Jobsy on YouTube. A different type of physicality, but Hyman not necessarily blowing guys up, constantly in the battle. To me, that is huge. So I think that's kind of your point, Struddy. It's like, they're able to throw hits and be physical, and they can be an imposing team physically when they want, but I think their physicality in terms of their battle level has really changed in the last 5 months. They're more in the fight, in the battle, never mind the big hits or the fights.
Yeah, it's I call it being hard to play against, and so for a forward, how Hyman expresses it is he goes to the hard, goes to the blue paint hard, gets there, stick on the ice, and he establishes position so that now the D's like, well, am I going to let Draisaitl shoot this and try block it, or do I take this away so they can't pass and bank it off Hyman like we've seen multiple times over the last couple of years? Like that's how you play hard, back checking hard, reloading above the puck, working hard to get in on the forecheck and just being disruptive. Like that is what being hard to play against is, and you need to have all 4 lines playing the same way. If you go back and look at Stanley Cup teams, they are all hard to play against. Not a couple players, not a couple lines. It's 4 lines deep that are always coming at you, playing hard, coming at you hard. Let's just go back to 2006 with the Edmonton Oilers in Carolina. That Oilers team was really hard to play against, really, really hard to play against. The forwards lines I'm talking about. And this group has way more skill, no disrespect to that group, but way more skill up front, but they're developing that same attitude, but how they're going to be hard to play against shift in, shift out.
All right, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Struddy, I'm calling it audible. We had talked before the podcast about what we wanted to do for our takeaways segment. We discussed 11-7 versus 12-6. We can hit on that a little bit, but we're getting a few comments on the stream about Darnell Nurse. So I'm going to change our takeaway segment to Darnell Nurse. We've seen a number of strong performances by him. So on the stream, folks, give us your thoughts about Darnell Nurse's game recently. I'll remind you, takeaways is brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. They are the #1 GMC dealership in all of Canada for the last 5 consecutive years. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. They actually have trucks in stock. So if you want to get out there and test drive something, a lot of places you go and they have a tough time even putting you into a vehicle. Sherwood Buick GMC, they're a big enough dealership. They actually have stock, both new and used. Trucks, cars, SUVs, really high quality stuff. I've got the Sierra 1500 elevation trim, and I absolutely love it. They make the process easy, and it's a big, beautiful showroom too, just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. They always have some really nice customs in there too. So if you like classics, go check out Sherwood Buick GMC. That's a whole other side of their business and what they do. So some real interesting stuff. Let's get to Darnell Nurse. Nurse has been a beast, really cleaned up his game, says T.I. Worth every penny, says
Whoa.
Babak.
Whoa.
Sorry if I said that name wrong. I think it's Babak. Says worth every penny. Darnell Nurse saved his best for the best time, says Cole Smith. Struds, what's the right perspective on Darnell Nurse in this moment versus his season?
I think he's had a pretty strong season, but I really do think that we can't dismiss the fact that when Ekholm came, it seems like he's kind of found another level. And I do feel it's because he doesn't feel the need to be everything and win every game, every shift, right? Like I think he can just go about and do his thing. Ekholm has really steadied that second pairing, or whatever we want to call it, 1A, 1B. He's steadied that partnership. And now Nurse, I feel, trusts what that pairing is going to do. So when he's out there, he can just do his job. Now, we get in the playoffs, his minutes are going to tick up. What did you say it was tonight? 22 or something like that?
Yeah, let me grab it real quick here, buddy.
Somewhere in there. But, in the playoffs,
23-26 was okay. Darnell Nurse. Ekholm was 19-27. It's still a first pairing, second pairing, I would say, based on the distribution and quality of competition.
And I'm guessing both those guys will tick up when you get into the playoffs, especially in the closer games. They're both going to add a couple minutes, and that third pairing might drop down a bit. But nonetheless, I think the timing, it's not a coincidence that Nurse has kind of just really gone to another level with his play with the arrival of Ekholm. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's been good all year. I think because of the salary that he made this year, there was a lot of focus put on the mistakes that were in his game through the year. I think he's had other years where he's made similar mistakes, but it's not quite as big a deal, right? This market pays a lot of attention to the salary cap because the team talks about the salary cap all the time, what they can and can't do because of the salary cap. So people analyze the crap out of the salary cap. And I think a lot of his mistakes in the early season were magnifying glass on them because of the money that he made. I do think that he struggled out of the gate. And quite frankly, I believe he struggled under the weight of that new salary and level of responsibility and the pressure that comes with doing that. I think it took him a little while probably to find his footing and to just be okay with that whole thing. But I think he's rounded into form. I think he's playing his best hockey at the most important time of the year. I think he's been really good for a while. But lately he's taken it to another level. I mean, if you look at his offensive output this season, 42 points, right? He's already sitting at a career high, which is impressive. He's got 11 goals. He's got 9 even strength goals, right? How many $9+ million defensemen don't get first power play unit minutes, right? So to put up numbers is hard when you're not in that situation. I think he's been really good lately. And I think since Ekholm arrived, I think it's been good for the entire blue line. A few more comments here off of Twitter. Nurse is a lot less noticeable since the Ekholm trade. For a defenseman, that's probably good. That says Claby, 007. Bidays, 15, says it's the Ekholm effect. Bone JRP agrees. Getting Ekholm has allowed him to be himself. Bidazy says Struddy, Ekholm has steadied that entire decor. We've talked a lot about that. Just his continued effect out there. Boy, he loves that slap shot coming in off the left side. Tried to get another one to go today. The giant clapper, he just winds up, touches, tickles the rafters, and lets the bomb go. That one had a little less pep on it than the other ones.
He stabbed a couple pigeons when he went up there, and Peter's going to be on his ass. No, whatever. I love that he's up there, right? I love that he's up there. And, I think there was a thought of that Ekholm isn't really an offensive defenseman. I think he's opportunistic with his offense.
Yeah.
But I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he can fake the shot, go around. Listen, I would have been just happy to get the shot off. So,
yeah.
But no, he's been very good. And I think Bjugstad has steadied as well. I think CC's kind of steadied up. So those top four are steadied. And I really like the third pairing. I mem remember last year in the playoffs, the third pairing was Barrie and Kulak. And, I thought that was a pretty good pairing for the Edmonton Oilers, especially in the playoffs. This has a different look. Like Darnell is way different than Barry, and Barry's different than Darnell. But I think that this is maybe what they need right now in that third pairing. Someone that's going to be very heavy-handed, not fun to play against, and just bring
He's
it.
He's been a godsend, buddy.
Shift.
He's been a good. He's exactly the type of player that they needed.
Yeah, and at no cost, right? They added him in at no cost, which I think, again, there's no. It's funny when Ken Holland does something or doesn't do something, people just crap all over him. I think we got to give the man some credit. He's positioned.
Of course.
Again, we had to wait to see the end to see what it all look like at the end of the year. And now this team, I think he's given this team a good chance to do what they can. Like, I'm not sure there's really any more holes he could have plugged with the available cap space and to some point the assets he had, right?
Jennifer Brown, and thank you for your contribution, says Ekholm balanced the entire defense group, which we've been talking about. Couple good comments here. One from Omar. The salary argument has to stop. Who, if the agent called and says you'll be making $9 million a year, who's turning it down? It's not his fault that he gets paid $9 million. Jennifer Brown says, Omar, 100%. That contract was the going rate at the time. Nurse was lucky in that off season. Nobody is suggesting Darnell Nurse should have turned down any money or anything like that, but I think it's fair to say when you sign a big contract like that and you take a major raise and you're making more money than Leon Draisaitl and a team that's tight to the cap in a window where they're supposed to win, it's going to get analyzed. And I think that just comes with the territory. And it probably just took a little while for Darnell Nurse to kind of settle in under those conditions. I find he does a pretty good job of shutting the outside world out, though.
Yeah, he's a competitor. And I think the same thing can be said about Campbell. And I think Campbell's another guy that can he turn around this year? I'm not sure there's time, or I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I think that's another guy that has to come to grips with the fact that he's a $25 million player.
Yeah.
And it is unsettling. Like, I know when I was given an assistant captaincy in Vancouver, it unsettled me for a little while. Then Brian Burke brought me in his office and read me the riot act and told me to calm down. And I did. And that was it. But that was only an A. It wasn't $25 million.
You were crumbling under the weight of that letter on your shoulder?
You know what I was trying to do? I was trying to be who I wasn't. And he just said, don't try to be who you aren't. We gave you an A because of who you are.
Yeah.
Just be the same guy. And it really settled me down. And I'm giving a hard time. He didn't yell at me, but that was what I needed to hear. And I was so proud to wear that A, and I was like, I got to be everything every night. So it's not who you are, or it wasn't who I am. And same with Nurse and or.
You do a good job on this podcast, Struds, of just being who you are. You're not trying to be somebody you're not. You're not on here trying to be Gregor. You're not on here trying to be me. You do a good job of just being yourself, Struds, and I think that's why you've settled in so nicely into your place as the second most important person on the pod. I just think it's been a good fit for you.
Well, Zuby is very important, and I'm happy to be second.
If he's so important, where is he? By the way, I invited Zuby to the pod tonight. He's like, I got family in town. I can't. Wow, Lottie freaking die, eh?
Takes more days off, that guy, than anyone I know.
Last comment, then we're going to get out of here. Philip Broberg. We were going to talk a little bit about 11-7 versus 12-6. Another 4-minute night in a really important game. Worth it to have him in there? Do you think they'll go 11-7 to start the playoffs? And is it worth it to have him in there for 4 minutes? Or when McLeod comes back, is that another good forward? Then they'll switch back to 12-6.
Well, we've been told, Jay Woodcroft told us how he's going to use Broberg in tight games. 3.5 minutes last game against LA, and now tonight, let's call it 5, whatever the number was. So that's 4 and change, I think. Let me grab it. Since we're talking about it, 4:16, 9 shifts, an average of 28 seconds a shift. Yeah, and I don't remember seeing him much the second half of the game. So I think when you go into the playoffs, you're probably going to roll out 12 forward and 6 defensemen, because we know what it is. Maybe you squeak him in there every now and then just to keep him in the mix. But I would suspect tomorrow, who are the Ducks tomorrow? They're the Ducks. Right? They got the Ducks, yeah. Yeah, I suspect tomorrow they're going to try to get his minutes up. If they're going to try to get him into that 12 to 15 minute range tomorrow night. So play him again and load him up. 100%. In the second night of a back-to-back, right? Maybe give his other guys a little bit of a break, try and even out the minutes. The Oilers need to go out and leave no doubt in that game. Just make it simple. Right. Step on the gas in the first period, and Anaheim's a team that's had a rough go lately. So, okay, pal. Good job tonight, my man. Likewise. No issues, no accidents, no injuries.
Yeah.
And a good pod. So I'm thrilled.
We might get out of here clean. I don't want to jinx it, but like I hit record, nothing's falling off the wall. Right. A good number of views we've had. Like this has actually gone pretty steady tonight. So
yeah,
fingers crossed. See, I told you I was rounding into form for playoffs, buddy.
Thanks for staying up and tuning in, everybody. I love it.
All right, Struddy, you can hop off. I'll let you go. Thanks, my man. We'll chat with you in the next couple of days.
Yeah, buddy, will do.
All right, that is Jason Strudwick, the alternate captain here on Got Your Back. Big thanks to everybody for hopping in on the streams. Just love it. We're getting great involvement here on YouTube and on Twitter, and it's really cool to see it growing. Kind of each time we do this, more people are hopping on. We get more people contributing with the comments. Struds and I talk about it off air all the time. We just love doing this and having this kind of interaction. You know, the regular podcasts are good, but you know, got to get the fans involved, especially after a big game like this, and we look forward to doing that through the playoffs as well. Big thanks to our sponsors. You can see them on the screen. Mr. Dirk, our title sponsor, DLR Vinyl Products, my brothers, Sherwood Buick GMC, Weiss Johnson, Horse Racing Alberta, by the way, also real valued sponsor here on Got Your Back. Oilers in Anaheim tomorrow night. Kind of a weird road trip, then a couple of days off, a few more games next week. Lots of podcasts coming up, so keep an eye on our feed. By the way, Pierre LeBrun and I are going to be doing an NHL pod tomorrow, Got Your Back NHL edition. Mike Johnson is going to join us as well, so we're going to basically cut across the entire National Hockey League, update you on what was a pretty critical night tonight. Struds and I didn't talk about it, but how about the Flames losing that game? What the heck was with that? Vegas lost as well, 3-2 in overtime to the Nashville Predators. So Pierre, Johnny, and I are going to go round the horn, round the National Hockey League. So keep an eye out for Got Your Back NHL edition tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great finish to your night. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to chatting again soon. Cheers, everyone.